Good morning students. This morning we are going to study about the Latin American Revolution. The Spanish and the Portuguese colonized Latin America to exploit the resources. Let's find how the colonization affected the natives of Latin America. The Spanish and Portuguese propagated their language, religion and customs. They built houses and churches in Spanish style. Several schools were established for imparting Spanish system of education. The Spanish farming methods and crops were introduced. New diseases spread from Europeans to the Latin Americans. Racial discrimination was enforced towards the natives in all walks of life. They looted the resources and wealth of the Latin American people. They enslaved the natives to work. The revolution led by Jose de San Martin, Francisco Miranda and Simon Bolivar, etc. They led Latin American countries to be independent. So dear students, we studied about the Latin American Revolution. The Latin American Revolution is the third revolution of this chapter. Next, the fourth revolution is Russian Revolution. One of the major revolution that was happened in the history was Russian Revolution. The workers had a great role in the Russian Revolution. They demanded for the abolition of the private property. They demanded everyone has to be worked, and they demanded all the power should be in the hands of the people. Let's find what were the circumstances for this Russian Revolution. Farmers and factory workers in Russia led a tragic life under the autocracy of the Tsarist emperors who ruled Russia. The low agricultural production affected the farmers' income. Moreover, the landless farmers had to pay huge tax. Though Russia was rich in natural resources, their industrial production was meager. It was the foreigners who controlled the majority of the industries that existed there. There were writers who depicted the plight of the workers and the farmers in their works. They are Maxim Gorky, Leo Tolstoy, Ivan Turgenev, and Anton Chekhov. The writers and the leaders called for the supremacy of the workers instead of that by the capitalists. Trade unions were formed for the remedies of the plight of the workers. Based on the Marxian ideologies, they started Social Democratic Workers' Party. Later, the Social Democratic Workers' Party was divided into two, Mensheviks and Bolsheviks. Mensheviks means minority, Bolsheviks means majority. Alexander Kerensky was the leader of the Mensheviks, and Lenin and Trotsky were the leaders of the Bolsheviks. One of the major events in the Russian Revolution is known as Bloody Sunday. Let's study what is Bloody Sunday. The crisis reached its worst when Russia defeated in the Russia-Japan War on 1905. The workers organized a huge march at Petrograd on 9th January 1905. They demanded political rights and economic reforms. But the march was fired by the soldiers and hundreds of demonstrators were massacred. This event is known as Bloody Sunday. So dear students, you have to study well about the Bloody Sunday. What do you mean by Bloody Sunday? When the crisis reached its worst, the workers organized a huge march at Petrograd on 9th January 1905. They demanded political rights and economic reforms. But this march was fired by the soldiers and hundreds of demonstrators were massacred. This event is known as Bloody Sunday. Ignoring the protests from the Duma, the then Tsar decided to participate in the First World War in 1914. A lot of Russian soldiers were killed in First World War. The food shortage was severe. A lot of women marched in Petrograd clamoring for bread. The workers organized a march to Petrograd. The workers captured Petrograd and Nicholas II was thrown out of power. A provisional government was formed under the leadership of Alexander Kerensky, the Menshevik leader. This revolution is known as February Revolution. The Russian calendar is few days back from the international calendar. This revolution that took place in March came to be known as February Revolution. Dear students, you have to study about this February Revolution. What do you mean by February Revolution? The workers organized a protest march in Petrograd and they captured power and Nicholas II was thrown out of power. A provisional government was formed under the leadership of Alexander Kerensky, the Menshevik leader. This is known as February Revolution. Since the Russian calendar is few days back from the international calendar, the revolution took place in March, came to be known as February Revolution. Dear students, as we know, with the February Revolution, a provisional government was formed in Russia under the leadership of Alexander Kerensky, the Menshevik's leader. But a group of Soviets did not support this provisional government. Lenin, who had been in Switzerland, came to Russia and opposed this provisional government. A group of Soviets and Bolsheviks also supported him. He argued that entire power should be transferred to the Soviets. They propagated only the proletarians, that means workers, could only eradicate the centuries-old backwardness of the country. Lenin, the Soviets and the Bolsheviks put forward several demands. They are the following. First one, withdraw Russia from the First World War. Secondly, seize the lands owned by the lords and distribute them among the farmers. Thirdly, make factories public property. In October 1917, the Bolsheviks organized an armed rebellion against the provisional government. Kerensky fled from the country and Russia came under the control of Bolsheviks. This event through which the Bolsheviks attained power is known as October Revolution as per the Russian calendar. Subsequently, a convention of the Soviets was held and a cabinet was formed with Lenin as its head. Let's examine the results of the Russian Revolution. Russia withdrew from the First World War, seized out the land and distributed among the peasants or farmers, gave importance to public sector, introduced centralized planning, achieved develops in the field of science, technology and economy. New constitution came to force in 1924. Union of Soviet Socialist Republic was formed by consolidating different Soviet republics, spread the socialist ideas all over the world. So dear students, with this we completed the topic of Russian Revolution. In this Russian Revolution, you have to remember the Bloody Sunday, October Revolution and February Revolution. Dear students, the last revolution in this chapter is Chinese Revolution. In 20th century, China witnessed revolutions against the monarchy and the foreign rule. The colonial powers of Europe and America adopted new policies for this exploitation. These new policies are known as opium trade and open door policy. Let's study about this opium trade and open door policy. Chinese silk, tea and earthenware were in great demand all over Europe. China gained huge profit through the export of these items. There was nothing to import to China from Europe. As a result, the European traders suffered a great loss. As a remedy for this, the British traders imported opium and intoxicant to China. This affected the Chinese trade and its consumption made the Chinese people mentally imbalanced. It resulted in economic and mental subjugation of the Chinese. This is known as opium trade. Open door policy. By the end of the 19th century, several European countries acquired trade privileges in China. America could not acquire the privilege as it was not concerned about China at that time. To acquire the privilege, John Hay, the then State Secretary of the USA, proclaimed the open door policy. As per this policy, America argued for equal rights and opportunities for all countries in Chinese market. China was divided into different regions to be controlled by various countries. The aim of this policy was to create an opportunity for the USA to interfere in China. This is known as open door policy. The Manchu dynasty in China favored a foreign dominion and interference. Some secret organization in China revolted against it in 1900. The emblem of this secret organization was Boxer's fist. That's why this revolution is known as Boxer Rebellion. Though this rebellion was a failure, but it stimulated the later revolutions that came up later. In 1911, another revolution took place under the leadership of Dr. Sun Yat-sen against the Manchu dynasty. This ended the monarchy in China. After the revolution, the Kuomintang party organized the republican form of government under the leadership of Dr. Sun Yat-sen. He introduced the policies of nationalism, democracy and socialism. He decided to nullify all the unjust treaties that were signed with the foreign countries, and he wanted to maintain the equality with the Western countries. The Kuomintang Republic adopted the measures for the progress of the agriculture and the industry. China received assistance from Russia in various fields, and later Chinese Communist Party was formed. In the beginning, the Kuomintang and the Communists cooperated with each other, but the cooperation was ended when Chiang Kai-shek became the head of the republic after the death of the Dr. Sun Yat-sen. A drastic change happened after the death of Dr. Sun Yat-sen. The Chiang Kai-shek became the head of the republic and he ascertained the military autocracy in China. He gave opportunity for foreign countries including America to freely interfere in China and not to cooperate with the communists. The communists protested the policies of Chiang Kai-shek, but they were brutally suppressed. At that time, Mao Zedong rose to the leadership of the Communist Party. In 1934, under the leadership of Mao Zedong, a journey started from Jiangxi in South China. The adventurous trip ended at Yan'an at northwestern China. Throughout the journey, they seized out the agricultural lands and villages of the lords and distributed among the farmers. The journey covered 12,000 kilometers, so it is known as Long March. Now to study about this Long March. This Long March was under the leadership of Mao Zedong. This Long March was covered around 12,000 kilometers, and this Long March seized out all the agricultural lands and the villages of the lords, and they were distributed among the farmers. This is known as Long March. Let's find out the results of the Chinese Revolution. Zedong and the Communist Party became the symbol of struggles of China against foreign power. Chiang Kai-shek had to seek political asylum in Taiwan when the Red Army of Mao Zedong captured center of the Kuomintang rule. China became the People's Republic of China on 1st October 1949 under the leadership of Mao Zedong. This is about Chinese Revolution. So dear students, with this we completed the first chapter of history textbook. There were 5 major revolutions. First one was American War of Independence, second one was French Revolution, third one was Latin American Revolution, fourth one was Russian Revolution, and last one was Chinese Revolution. So dear students, thank you for all.